A recent 2023 study goes on to reveal that in 2023 alone, about $15 trillion was added to the global household debt. And that is why in today's video, we'll be looking at the 9 mistakes that you're probably making and then how you can, more importantly, take advantage of whatever we'll be sharing in this video. And then more importantly, protect your finances against the ravages of whatever might happen in the economy. And so if you're new here, my name is Nana. I hold a master's degree in business finance. And on this channel, we discuss everything personal finance and personal development. And so without further ado, we just go straight to the first point, and that is lack of planning and goal setting. One of the key reasons why people do not actually go on to achieve their financial goals at the end of the year is simply because they do not actually know what they set out to achieve at the end of the year. And it is widely said and believed that when a man knows not where he sails, no wind at all is favorable to him or her. And so if you're sailing, for example, towards the east, and then there's a tempest that takes you towards the east, then surely you know that that tempest is favorable. However, if you're sailing towards the west and then the tempest actually takes you towards the east, then you know that that tempest is actually quite unfavorable. And so at this point, what you need to do is to sit down and then ask yourself the simple question: what is it that I want to achieve at the end of the year? And then try and then write it down. That is what will drive you and then motivate you to achieve whatever goal that you actually set out to achieve financially at the end of the year. This brings us to the second money mistake that we all make, and that is not actually focusing or tracking our expenses. So one of the key reasons why, according to James Clear, most people fail when it comes to goal setting and even adopting new habits is simply because they lack the habit of habit tracking. So the best way for you to actually go on and then achieve your goals, or probably to manage your money and to ensure effectiveness and efficiency when it comes to your expenditure, and more importantly savings and then investing, is to try and then track the progress. So sit down and ascertain where your money is actually coming from and then what you're actually spending on. And trust me when I tell you that if you're able to actually focus on these things and then sit down and then face your expenses, you'd realize that a chunk of your money is going to things that might not actually be categorized as needs. And that is why it is very, very necessary for you to sit down and then assess them. If you're able to know where your money is going, then more importantly, you can also make the decisions to cut back on things that might not be delivering any value to you. And that is one of the surest ways for you to actually hit your goals at the end of the year. This brings us to the third money mistake, and that is living above your means, or probably known as keeping up with the Joneses. So one of the key reasons why we fail when it comes to setting and achieving financial goals is simply because we are dragged out of our budget, in that we try as much as possible to focus on what people are doing, and then that also has a very negative impact on what we are doing, forgetting that their income might not be the same income that we are actually receiving at the end of the month. And so the surest way for you to actually build wealth and to avoid any form of economic turmoil along the line is to try as much as possible and then live below your means. Try and then cut down on unnecessary expenses or things that might not deliver, like I've stated earlier, any value to you. This brings us to the fourth mistake, and that is living large on credit cards. So the average APR on credit cards is around about 21%, between 20 and 21%. And so one of the key reasons and the key ways that people actually fail when it comes to setting and achieving financial goals is simply because they tend to use credit so much, and that comes to bite them in the form of interest payments, or subsequently charges that might actually come as a result of them defaulting on the minimum payments that they're actually going to make at the end of the month as a result of holding credit card loans or holding credit card debt. So one of the key things that you need to consider when it comes to using credit cards is to try and then keep your expenses anywhere between 10 and then 30% of your credit limit, and then try as much as possible to offset any debts that you hold at the end of the month. This would ensure that you actually avoid any form of interest that you may pay along the line just by holding debt for a very long period of time. And then also you're likely going to save more and then invest at the end of the month. This brings us to the fifth money mistake, and that is investing without research. So Warren Buffett is considered one of the most successful investors of all time. And one of the key things that he considers before buying into a portfolio or probably selling is the fact that he asked himself the simple question: is this something that I know so much about, or is this something within my area of competence? In that, do I have any knowledge on the things that I'm buying, or the company, or probably the industry that I'm buying into? So when he started out, he was probably just spending or buying shares from insurance companies. And then over time, he's actually diversified to incorporate some banks and then several other technology companies along the line. But one thing that is always held on to is the fact that he invests or puts his money where he actually has some form of knowledge or expertise in. And so that is one of the key things that you need to consider. Don't just follow the advice of these gurus online trying to just promise you some amount of returns if you're to invest or to copy their pie or whatever thing that they actually pitch to you. Try as much as possible and then educate yourself on investing, and then try and then put money where you actually have some level of competence. And that is one of the surest ways for you to actually build wealth in the long run. This brings us to the sixth money mistake, and that is failure to budget. So a budget is actually something that will likely ensure the discipline that is required for you to hit your financial goals at the end of the year. So one of the key ways to actually budget effectively and efficiently is a 50-30-20 rule. So 50% of your income actually goes towards your needs, 20% goes to your wants, and then the further 20% can go into service and debt or probably into savings. Also, what you can do simply is to adopt the 80-20 rule of budgeting, in that 80% of your income can go into your needs, and then the further 20% can go into service and debt or probably even investment. And so one of these techniques would actually be useful to you, and you're the only person that can actually assess your finances and then determine which one of these two techniques would actually be helpful, in that you may actually be able to make all the right choices, of course, considering the circumstance that you find yourself financially. This brings us to the seventh money mistake, and that is ignoring insurance needs. So I've sold insurance before, and I can tell you on authority that several people out there, had it not been for the fact that several insurance products are actually required by law for people to have, they would have otherwise not had it, or they wouldn't have purchased that insurance. But what you need to know is that insurance payment or premiums are not a way of companies actually siphoning money from you. What you need to know is that buying insurance or having insurance in place would actually serve as a fallback in times of any unforeseen economic circumstance or any accidents happen along the line. And so what you need to do is that you need to try as much as possible and then buy some insurance and then cover your assets. By so doing, you'd actually be indemnified if any of these accidental circumstances should pop up, touch wood, in the near future. And you're rest assured that all the progress that you've made insofar as savings and an investment is concerned wouldn't be wiped away by just an economic turmoil that might even not be your fault, or that might not even be foreseeable in your case. This brings us to the eighth money mistake, and that is not investing into retirement. So there are several people out there who feel like they still have time before retirement, and so as a result of that, they don't actually contribute towards retirement. That is one of the biggest mistakes that you can ever make, because the more you start to contribute, and the earlier, more importantly, that you contribute towards your pension, the more it becomes easier for you to secure your future financially, because that is one of the key sources of income that you may actually have to fall back when you actually retire. And that is why it is very, very incumbent on you and very necessary for you to make all the right choices, in that you've got to contribute probably towards any arranged employer pensions, and then more importantly, your private pensions as well, so that touch wood, should anything happen or should you see any shortfall anywhere in life, you're rest assured that once you grow old and you retire, you still got something in the form of pensions that you're actually going to fall on. This brings us to the ninth and the last financial mistake, and that is lack of financial education. So Warren Buffett goes on to say that an investment in yourself is one of the greatest investments that you can ever make. And so what you need to know at this point is that you need to try as much as possible and then familiarize yourself with several economic concepts and financial concepts, which would help you also to manage your money better. There are several podcasts out there that you can listen to, several audiobooks and several books out there that you can buy to just enrich your knowledge as to what you have to do, and more importantly, the things that you need to shy away from when it comes to the management and the subsequent use of your money, and how you can, more importantly, drive yourself towards the attainment of your goals. So thank you for spending time with us, and see you in the next video.